Thanks, Paul. This is Jose Requena with another episode of Fear and Loathing in the Windy City. A great title suggestion was suggested to me. In the face of everything that's going on, might be doing some changes to the show. Well, clearly, there are changes. Thank you again for tuning in to independent media and for supporting 99 Perspective Studio. Today, I got a couple stories to go through. A lot's been going on. Paul's going to be really cool about keeping me on track with time, just quick 5 minutes on each of these topics. So there's a lot to cover to just kind of touch base on. I want to use the first 5 minutes, and I am late. So I want to use the first 5 minutes to do a little cleanup here at the show. For a while, the show was kind of running off the seat of its pants. There was a lot going on. We really wanted to get ready for Illinois primary. A lot of things changed after Super Tuesday and all the other candidates dropping out. It used to be when there were so many candidates in the race and so many of their people were working on different angles, there seemed to be a lot more going on that made the show necessary. Clearly, all that was really going on was the establishment was trying to see who was going to end up consolidating themselves against Bernie Sanders. You see, it's Joe Biden. The show will be changing gears. Fear and organizing in the Windy City has a good ring to it, but we do want to make the show a bit more uplifting. During this pandemic, a lot of people are scared. They're worried. Everything's up in the air, and people are thinking they're going to go back to work in a month or before Easter or something like that. Some people think that this could last over a year. So want to change gears and not focus so much on the fear and loathing of it all, which is going to be weird. But the show will try to make sure that we include more slices of life and be a little bit more researched, have a lot more links on the bottom. I included a link, just one in the description. All these stories you can kind of Google, but it's an interesting thing that, about a boat that was recently seized with billions of dollars of cocaine in it by Chase. Just that caveat to keep in mind while we talk about all this politics. It's my intro. Wanted to get into our first story. Can't really see what you guys are seeing on the screen, so hoping I can just. You're in the second story already? Okay. Sorry. Thanks. Cool. So the pandemic. Populism. What is going on with populism? Bernie's a populist. Donald Trump's a populist. His people are exactly the same. And, all us reasonable moderates, some of us are Republicans, some of us are Democrats. We all go to Thanksgiving and Christmas together. We have different temperaments. But it's our country, and we gotta come together, not like all these populists, Trump and Bernie, exact same things. Bear in mind, billionaires only fund one of those kinds of populisms. And that's the problem with this narrative that we have to attack. Is there such thing as leftist populism and right-wing populism, or is there just populism? And actually, there really is just kind of like populism. But to conflate the populism that we have seen under Bernie Sanders, and again, the kind that billionaires pay for in Donald Trump, is very different. The Donald Trump movement largely got its start because the Koch brothers were funding the Tea Partiers to go against Obama, bailing you guys out, bailing anybody out. Obama would have gone for a public option if it was, there. Ron Emanuel and his expert advice convinced him not to do it, not to push for it. It's too risky. And apparently, he risked enough just by trying to, get more people, force more people to pay for insurance. The Koch brothers didn't want you guys to have a mortgage bailout. They didn't want you guys to get your student loans forgiven. They didn't want a bailout for more jobs for you guys. And they wanted to make sure the Democrats understood that. The Democrats lost the House in 2010 because a bunch of corporate Democrats that Ron Emanuel helped get elected in 2006 ran against Obamacare, saying they thought it was kind of radical and they were still unsure, but that's what our party wants. They were trying to do a moderate take on a non-public option healthcare plan. If you guys remember correctly, I do. I left the country over it. Uh, that's what happened in 2010. That's really how Donald Trump's birtherism had traction, because the Koch brothers were pouring money into people that were reacting to essentially a black man being president. I'm sorry, that's really what everyone that I talked to when I was living abroad was witnessing. um, and the Koch brothers and the media was happy to make that the official narrative. It was always under the surface. And not, and then Trump was about bringing it out of the surface. He really enjoyed a billionaire funded foundation. And then came the Mercers funding Breitbart and Steve Bannon's operation. They're white supremacists. They view others as animals. They're terrible people. And then you have the Betsy DeVos and Eric Prince and their plans for the Middle East. And there you have plenty of money to just trickle down into populism that enables Donald Trump to rise in the media, CNN, MSNBC, giving him nonstop coverage. So Donald Trump's populism is a product of the billionaire class, of the establishment in America, and they know it and they don't want to own it. And we in independent media are going to make them own it. Sorry, that's history's at stake. So that's the plan. There is, so this thing, a lot of Republicans came out and voted for Biden against Bernie Sanders. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But what we're seeing is that, and those are people that, and I'm giving away the line, the only thing I was going to say about it, but that had voted against Clinton, voted for Trump because they were mad at Obama. And now they're going to come back and say, okay, we'll support Biden. So you have your Trump to Biden voters are really what's kind of changing this race. They want to say that that's America rejecting populism. That's a comfortable middle class rejecting the conflated populism that the billionaire class has been pumping into their heads through the media for the last couple of years. So populism's not going away. Sorry, guys. All right. And then the third wave Democrats had rejected populism a long time ago. We know this in the 80s. And then Bill Clinton kind of rose to the ranks of that rabble. And then Obama's like, I could do it better, like Reagan. You got the whole story. Okay. We're on the next story, Paul. Sorry. Cool. Okay. You can just give me a visual cue or anything like that. My bad. But I really, again, one of the things the reasons I even get on here or do Facebook Lives and stuff is I like to push back against official media narratives that millions of dollars get poured into, that a bunch of people sit around and talk about, okay, this happened, let's cover our bases, let's all get on the same page. And then there's a big push in the media, and you always feel it and you always see it, and you can see why they're making you think that, and then you can pick and choose about, well, they're making you try to think that for usually not great reasons. I mean, they convinced you that we should be in endless war because of WMDs, right? So dismantling narratives, but now positive narratives. Chicago's populism, Chicago's efforts in the wake of Super Tuesday, in the wake of this limbo that we're in, during this presidential election too. Been having a dry throat for months, but I do not have the Rona. Friends seem to have some symptoms, family at high risk, and everyone has stories. And I think that, if you're someone my age and met enough people, you have already know people that, haven't made it. This might be a show for some of that later, but right now, just, Chicago's, well, we're going to actually get about Chicago's pandemic efforts later, but Chicago right now is really, what are we doing? Activists, organizers, planners, policymakers, everyone has been everywhere and has never been consolidating anything, behind one candidate. And we'll get to that later. But Chuy Garcia, led the rally for Bernie Sanders here in Chicago. Was able to kind of introduce his would-be progressive machine, and people have issues with machines. I do, because it seems like they are more about self-insulating and protecting themselves, than they are about actually pushing out any policy. However, if they had policy to push out, it might actually be effective. I don't know. Um, might be worth finding out. Uh, I have a kind of, and I would love to have guests can actually speak to this with some authority. But when you're organizing and you're doing you know, after Obama's last term, we saw a lot of good activism and agitating Ron Emanuel, over his budgets, over closing down public housing. And that activism became organizing. Activism, you're agitating the power structure and the norm, organizing, you're moving people to directions from one place to another and funneling them into a trajectory. And then planning, you actually have to work out the logistics, and then you have policy making. So there's a whole layer of things that we could be doing right now. Um, but the idea is, we can be very hypercritical of each other at this moment. I am, and people have been on me, and they should. Um, what do we have to work with that can actually pass substantive policy right now in the wake of a pandemic and in the limbo that we're in? What are the resources that are actually available to make any of those things happen? We do have something in a progressive machine, or if it's not a farce. And I think now is the time to find that out. I'm sorry, but Jesus Garcia fundraising for himself in the wake of this pandemic, I don't know if that's the go-to move right now. But I do think that he's also trying to struggle to see what he can do with how many elected officials he was able to help get into office under his banner. I would hope that organizations that are moving their communities for a people's bailout, are able to actually engage with some of electeds and actually get a lot of these things passed. Now you have to be careful because electeds always have their different agendas. I think there's a lot of different ways to do this. I don't think you start with them at the table. I think you have what we have now, which is the people's bailout, and then you try to see who's going to actually help agitate that. Now, who came about the people's bailout? That's something I actually want to dig into the weeds for, because you'd be surprised how much goes into this. The non-industrial profit complex and self-serving billionaires. Just started a story of how the billionaire class kind of gassed up the phony populism of Trump. They do the same with a lot of our issues of the left, which is I think we might be going into our next story already. Cool. AOC. She's not Bernie and she's not Warren, right? The left is kind of freaking out and screaming, and or some of them are, and some people are just like, "Hey, calm down." And this, I don't know. I don't have a lot of issues with what's going on, depending, given the experience that I've had. Uh, Sometimes projects don't always work out. Sometimes you have to change gears, but I think that it's worth being vigilant and just cautious. And I think reminding yourself that we're not here to follow any one person anywhere. Not anyone's infallible. Bernie's made mistakes. I've made lots of mistakes. You make lots of mistakes. People make mistakes. We can nitpick, where AOC's gone wrong, or what she could have done better. But if you look at her track record, you see someone that is earnestly trying to uplift the issues that we're all fighting for in a very impactful way, with a lot of figures that are interested in her media presence. And she's trying to wield all of that effectively. In her freshman term in Congress, during one of the craziest times in history, she's not even 30 yet. So, I think she's been doing all right. People gotta stop freaking out. But she's not Bernie Sanders. She's not going to take the lonely fight and be alone. I think she's kind of try to play that off. There's a way that I've disagreed with Tulsi and have to respect. just how forthright, how hard she sticks to that decision, her logic for doing it. A lot could be said about Bernie and the way he's worked with Republicans and a lot of the ways he's gotten his amendments passed, through a lot of bills. That's not AOC. I don't think that she's Elizabeth Warren, where she says, based on my expertise, based on my genius, based on me, this is, what's going to happen now. This is the right thing to do. I'm not a moral, I don't have a morality wand. Neither does Bernie. But he has a fire-breathing voice that people, have a hard time disagreeing with. Elizabeth Warren tries to convince the billionaire class that they should let themselves be taxed more. I think that maybe AOC, being in the inside, sees the benefits to that. But she has gone out and attacked Cuomo and still has come out and point out a lot of the disparities, like recently backing up an Amazon factory worker that got fired and is now in the middle of having an Obama former press secretary come after him personally. She's backing him up. So she's not a fire-breathing dragon the way that Bernie Sanders is, but I do think that she is a soldier in this fight, and she's fighting it her own way. And, if people let Tulsi do that, relax. All right. So, war on Democrats. Are we on that? Why? Are you going to that? Okay. Sorry. Oh, no, not you. The story being war on Democrats. Why you do this? Liz, why you do this? Well, because all your friends are doing it with you, and all the people that gave you money and gave you an excuse for some of the bad policy stances you take are doing it with you, and because the networks of insiders that can sit down and nicely ask someone that hates these policies to just do it this one time because of this one reason are doing it with you. So, okay, it sounds fun, actually. That's nice. That's cool. You're basically doing what the Justice Democrats are going to do as insiders instead of outsiders. And that's nice. That would have been nice in 2017. When we all did it, when we did Justice Democrats and Brand New Congress, and we're really fighting against Trump and his policies and what he stands for, in a movement, because people were building the movement. They didn't just say, I'm part of a movement and now I'm leading it. They built a movement. And at really hard moments in that movement, when things were looking grim, people had to step up and make a choice. Not be cautious, you can be cautious. But when you're not, when you're building a movement, the moments when leaders demonstrate courage stays with people, and that stays with the memory of the movement. Warren never had that. She had the time that she really slammed that banking CEO of Wells Fargo. Even I said, oh man, Dragon Slayer. But, she had the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau. We're all getting screwed by as consumers at the moment, but we have that. She had great ideas, and she does move good policy, and she has great intentions. A movement leader, I don't know. So how effective are women Democrats going to be? I don't know. Is that a good enough substitute for something like Justice Democrats? I think the only marked difference is that Justice Democrats were primary Democrats that were against the policies they were trying to develop. And Warren Democrats seem like they won't primary them. They'll try to convince them to come around. Now, I was part of Organizing for Action. This doesn't sound all that much different, except it's with a non-presidential figurehead. And we begged Dan Lipinski for comprehensive immigration reform in 2013. I'm glad that guy lost because, man, he was a jerk. So thank you, Justice Democrats. And that's where I'm at with that. Okay. Still like Warren enough that we need her policies to succeed. I just wish they were if they're her policies and she's taking ownership of them, that should be fighting a little harder for them right now. Okay. I think we're going on to the next story. Cool. Biden voters. Okay. So you hated Obama. You're freaking out. You wouldn't vote for Hillary. So you decided, oh my God, we got to stop Bernie. I guess it's going to be Biden. Man. Are these people that wanted to make America great again? That's a harsh narrative, but I don't think it's an unfair one. I think that Biden is overtly, doing fireside chats where you need thousands of dollars to participate. Rumor has it that his VP pick might be the governor of Michigan, who seems like a very good leader, good manager. Also, I was in Michigan during that election. Great candidate, Abdul Sayed, running on Medicare for All. She was the non-Medicare for All candidate. She was funded mostly by Blue Cross Blue Shield. Biden and her overtly a non-Medicare for All ticket, while Trump is verging on it, but might never pass it, or might pass it for a little while and then take it away because he's a jerk. Anyway, that's Biden feeling that with taking this much money and the way that he won with the voters that he won, and making a good move. We need a woman VP, and she's fairly progressive, facing. But it is a way to get those Republicans that are just like, oh man, I can't believe we voted for Trump and all this stuff. People are killing us. Jimmy Dore keeps I don't know what he does, kind of freaking out at people, but that's not going to happen, or I think it's already happened. It happened in the primaries. Republicans saw the rise of Bernie and were just like, oh no, that's real populism. We don't want that. We don't want real populism. We never meant to do that. Oh no. And a lot of people that were Hillary Clinton, remember, wanted to win over white women. She didn't. And a lot of those white women that didn't go for Hillary because a lot of the negative attacks were looking at Warren. And they're saying, oh, I can't believe Bernie would beat Warren in her own state. And I apologize. I added to that. That was a rough week where Warren's people were just they're telling us about, the pressure of just what's going on right now. But those white women might have been friendly to Obama. They ended up voting for Trump, or maybe, I don't know how they felt, that Hillary was gaslighting them one way or the other, but she didn't win them over. It seems like maybe that's the group that is now deciding, had enough of Trump. Biden's going to have a woman VP, and he looks like he might collapse at any moment. So that might be, how we get a woman president. And the Democrats are just, I don't know, maybe they pull it off. They seem pretty confident about pulling it off. And like they did with Hillary, and like they did with Kerry, and like they did with Dukakis, but they're not after the leftist populist vote, I guess is what I'm saying. The fact that they're overtly running against Medicare for All means that we need to decide how we react to make sure that Medicare for All happens. If that's the third rail, that's where we have to go. Okay, I'm sorry. I took a while on that story. Pandemic news, though. Cuomo versus Trump. WrestleMania politics. J.B. Pritzker, I gotta say, I didn't, vote for you, and I had all these anti-billionaire things. I'm glad that I get to listen to that because I don't have to listen to Trump So I can understand how Cuomo suddenly got inflated with people freaking out, and someone that's not Trump trying to explain something to you, uh, is explaining something to you. Um, that's all he's really got. But it's but JP's doing a good job. Governor Inslee in California, I think he's probably doing the better job. I think out of these three, and I actually think Cuomo's doing the worst. But because CNN and MSNBC and all these media types are in New York and it's the center, and a lot of Bloomberg Democrats are nervous about their health, Cuomo's a hero. And again, I mean, it sucks, but Trump won through a kind of WrestleMania politics that we call populism, but it was all reality TV. Like I said, it's billionaire funded, put on cable news. And the play-by-play that we get with Cuomo and Trump, I think more than the politics, what we're really seeing is, like they want to make the excuse of who's a better manager? Is that what we should be looking for in a president? And also, this is not our fault. Cuomo's saying, this is not my fault. Trump is saying, this is not my fault. And I think a lot of people are coming to the realization of just like, this is the market's fault. Everyone's panicked. Everyone's losing their jobs. The stock market's doing great. And we did another bailout, and we're all sinking. And the media's obsessed with Cuomo versus Trump because that's what they do. They set up WrestleMania politics for us. It's not that this is what politics should be. Maybe it's always been, but the media definitely leans into it, exacerbates it, and then calls it, relies on that process for the legitimacy of our norms, and it's upsetting, which is why people are jumping on live cams now to say something about it. Cuomo's budget, though, I mean, everyone's on Cuomo, is terrible. He didn't legalize cannabis. Biden is also running against cannabis. He wouldn't raise wealth taxes to save Medicaid. So for an anti-Medicare for all ticket like Biden and Gretchen, Cuomo's a good stand-in. And that's really, I mean, if he's the standard bearer what the Democrats want, you have to look at their budget to see the reality of, oh, well, we have to vote for Biden because the Supreme Court judges. Oh, we have to vote for Biden because his budgets. Oh, we have to vote for Biden because, international policy. Oh, we have to vote for Biden because Trump is a rapist and he's racist and he's rude. Biden. Democrats are gonna, Cuomo maybe. Okay, so anyway. So, yeah, Cuomo's budget. Sorry, that's all I got for that. But I did want to stick, kind of harangue a little bit about the cannabis legalization. He is cutting Medicaid in the middle of a pandemic. Like, this man's a monster, He says there's a lack of revenue. He won't raise taxes on the wealthy to pay for the poor's medicine. Okay? Because I guess he's just ideologically against it. He won't legalize cannabis, something that would add relief to how stretched out law enforcement is and to the criminalization of Black and brown people and youth. and provide revenue, and acts as kind of a first line of medication for a lot of people in states that have legalized it. Ideologically opposed. Governor Cuomo's budget is an ideological budget. That is the truth of what Democrats believe. They need to keep cannabis illegal for the social and law enforcement, logistical reasons that that keep them in power, that keep a lot of the norms that they're used to in play. The states that have legalized it were libertarian, were always pretty fringy left and progressive. Illinois, a very slow kind of top-down process to just make, Illinois is the people that are just like, we will make that money. Whereas New York's just like, even if the money's there, we don't need it. We don't do that. We don't legalize cannabis. And is Joe Biden's America going to be better than what we've seen with the legalization of cannabis over the last couple of years? Something else to consider. Cuomo certainly doesn't seem to be leading anything there at all. All right. What else we got today? All right. Wisconsin, 2 days from now, they're going to kill you. Sorry. That's not funny. That's not funny. But the Dems and the Republicans are arguing, because bear in mind, to be completely fair to everyone involved in this situation, I mean, there are down ballot races at stake here, which is really what's brought this fight about. Republicans in Wisconsin, Democrats in Wisconsin are fighting about how this goes about. Republicans in the South have overtly been decrying mail-only ballots because they are complaining it's going to increase turnout. Assholes. But yeah, not the Democrats are any better. We could do all mail ballots in Wisconsin, but not in 2 days. So we're risking people doing one or the other. Biden kind of banking that he has the momentum to just end this. Bernie, I mean, people say, oh, you're going to lose, Bernie, you're going to lose. But I mean, honestly, it's the health of it all. Other people on Bernie's side are just like, do it. Oh, we're going to get this, but it's just like, guys, you know what? Safety first, honestly. Like, I didn't take this pandemic as seriously enough as I should have like a month ago. And it is, but I have friends that are working in hospitals, and people are seeing stories online, and everyone knows we're being affected by this. It is a uncertain time, but leadership would dictate that the process is important for the legitimacy of our norms. So we need to protect the process in as safe and as fair of a way as possible. I mean, the judge that went ahead and said that, the elections can go ahead was basically just trying to follow a correct process because there was such a heated issue that basically they had to just say, you know what? It's not my role to stop these elections. There is a right, there is a precedent, for why it's so important for things to move forward. If it is a public health crisis that stops this election, then a public health official needs to be the person that stops it. And unfortunately, everyone's pretty happy about Dr. Fauci. I kind of feel some of it's WrestleMania politics with Trump. I think he likes to have fun with it, to be completely honest. He's a jerk. These positions are political in a lot of ways. And if there's no public health official in Wisconsin telling them to stop this election goes forward, whatever happens comes back onto that official and whoever appointed them. So, I mean, whatever's going on this Tuesday, please be safe, please be well. I have no idea what to expect. It might be the knockout punch Biden is looking for. We will adjust then. I don't think that Bernie should drop out if that happens in Wisconsin, not even a little bit. It's a very unusual day that people are voting in the middle of a pandemic. That's basically going to be a huge thing in the general election. Way to go. Democrats, you're friends with Republicans, so you think they're going to be cool about it. And then, they wedge you and take your money, like you guys do with the left. So, yeah, Wisconsin is a mess. And it also speaks really to what's been going on in Wisconsin. Wisconsin went for Trump, remember. But now they're pivoting to like more Democrat. But we saw Randy Bryce, the Iron Stash, not able to take Paul Ryan's seat, which was very symbolic in the fight between progressives and the establishment in 2018. So Wisconsin turning blue doesn't mean that it's going Bernie Sanders. And I think that that's why Joe Biden is pushing this and the governor is working with them. But again, that's going to play terribly in the general and for the long-term good of the party. How long are you going to hold on to Wisconsin for and some of those coffers? I don't know, Dems, but, good luck with your chess game. Convention. Excuse me. Convention. It'll be fine. Yeah. Daley in 1968, he had the city on lock, okay? And he was not worried at all about how things were going to go. And things kind of went in a way that he never really thought was that big of a problem. And that's basically what we're going to see this year, probably from the Democrats. I don't think it's going to be like 1968, where people are going to be protesting so bad that police are going to be batoning them and fire hoses and dogs and terrible things. But I don't even know if there could be a massive protest in the face of the pandemic. I do know that it's going to be very farcical of a show to put on the world stage. And as hard as cable news is going to work to normalize what's happening and blame Bernie, like you have no one to blame but yourselves, poor people, for acting like desperate, hungry, dying poor people. And people are going to be upset, and then what happens, and then the Democrats are going to say, that was fine. And that's going to be the narrative of the convention. What we can do is be vigilant and be supportive. Bernie Sanders is going to have delegates on the inside. There are super delegates that, have said they were supportive of Bernie. And at the end of the day, people keep decrying, like, why is Bernie being so nice to Joe Biden? He keeps saying he's my friend, and like, Bernie, you're not doing fire breathing on the Democrats, and you're not pointing out how, the exit polls are way different than the actual results, and and the Democrats have messed up elections before, and we should be asking for an audit or asking for something, or at least highlighting those stories or bringing it up in a debate. Bernie Sanders has been an independent his whole life because he didn't want to sign anything that Democrats put in front of him. Okay, you don't want to sign a non-disclosure agreement that Michael Bloomberg puts in front of you. And you don't want to sign a non-disclosure agreement that Democrats put in front of you or anyone. And you don't want to sign a pledge to the mob, if you're fighting for workers' rights. It's basically what Bernie's been at. But if he was to run as a non-independent, he ran in the Democratic primary, he did sign a pledge. He did sign something about, I won't talk about this. I won't ever infer this. I won't even suggest this. I'll never go there. And afterwards, I'm going to follow up and do my part and help you guys win the presidency. He signed a contract. Now, the Democrats are a private corporation, and they're basically the mafia. Like, people keep doing that conspiracy theory that Hillary Clinton had punched Bernie at the last convention. She was just being a jerk about things. I actually kind of believe that. Bernie can't break that contract, or he can go to jail. He can be fined. Real bad things could happen if he had said, I'm going to do my part and I'm legally bound to this. And then he just decides, well, you know what? I'm upset and I'm not going to do it. So, yeah, people got to ease up. And Bernie surrogates can't really be saying this either if they're working for the Democratic Party. So us non-people that have some of this information and know-how should be imploring his supporters to like, yo, relax. He's playing his part because he has to. And I feel I owe it to the dude to at least figure out what he wants to be doing and be helpful. And what we can be doing is making sure that the media is not decrying his movement, him as a person, because they are. That interview with The View was awful. What you call it? And, he was on MSNBC for like 2 seconds with Adrian Mitchell. They want to co-opt some of this, or at least say they tried, for reference, for the records, but they're not treating him well or actually giving him a real platform that he could use right now, and they never have. So that's kind of what we should be doing with the convention. Bernie is trying to slog his way through this. That's what he did last time, and if he hadn't, I don't think that we'd be this far along in the fight for Medicare for all that we are at this moment. And we want the Green New Deal, but I'm sorry, without a federal jobs guarantee as the cherry on top, it still just looks like a smorgasbord of a beautiful Sunday that's magical. The Green New Deal is amazing. I love it, and we should be pushing for it. But Medicare for all is clear and simple in what we need right now, and we know that is the hard line that the billionaire class that funds both parties do not want us to have. If that's our last stand, if that's that's our hill to die on, that's worth fighting for, that's worth dying for. So Medicare for all, Bernie fighting his way to the convention, win or lose Wisconsin, that's the plan, and he'll be fine. All right. What else we got? People's bailout. Yeah. Sounds like, the Democrat mafia being like, well, we own the trains. Well, I own the schools. Well, I own this. Well, this is how we get some money. And then they put a nice package together and got a nice group of young kids out there fighting for stuff. That's happened before in Chicago. Actually, this happens all the damn time in Chicago. But this, you love the groups that are doing this, though. And everyone that does this is actually good people. I want those policies to succeed, but who developed them, who's backing them, who's putting money into the graphics, I don't know. But I've always been a big supporter of CTU, the teachers union. And whenever they're involved, I imagine that that's a good fence between the establishment, union politics, and real progressives and leftists. They're a tent, they're an incubator. And Sunrise Movement, amazing organizers everywhere. That Chicago has amazing organizers, nationally amazing organizers. It's not a DSA show, which is kind of nice. DSA, I think, being siloed is precisely what the Democrats have been trying to attack. There's been a lot of good things happening in Chicago. There's been some wildcat strikes. Amazon workers are asking for sick days. People are having to show up to work sick because they don't have sick days, and if they don't show up to work, they're fired. So Amazon workers, are getting agitated, I hear. Schools. I work as a teacher assistant at a school, and I'm at home. I love that SEIU 73 has our back for a couple paychecks and for our healthcare benefits. If this is the gambit the billionaire class is going to try to push at home schooling indefinitely, I don't know what positions like mine are going to look like. I don't know what long term of schools is going to look like. That being in jeopardy is a big move by the establishment to really crush progressive this year. So I'm trying to be vigilant about that, and would like to have in-depth interviews and conversations about that in the future. Uh, First responders are not, of course, our nurses, our doctors, but also our grocery store clerks, our mailmen, our delivery people that are out there delivering right now, sales clerks, people that are trying to be safe. There was an argument about masks, whether they save you or not. Look, all I know is I lived in Asia for 4 years. Wearing a mask during like smoggy seasons, flu seasons was pretty common. And, it's, if you have gloves on, you can still get the flu, Oh, I shouldn't do that. But like, if you have a mask on, yeah, if you're outside all day and you're around flu things and then you're somewhere where non-flu things are, your mask might be contaminating things. So be practical, it's a guard between you and germs. It's practical. So if we had enough masks to go around in America, I don't think we'd be getting the talking points that we're getting. So there's that. The intelligence community going crazy about trying to prove that China's making their numbers up and they're lying about it. Maybe they are. Our numbers are not the most accurate. We haven't given as many tests, and then we have ventilators in New York, and then we might have to move them to other places. I'm sure there are other places that need them right now too. It's a big PR campaign. Unfortunately, intelligence is also just gossipy of like who handled this worse. And the U.S., whatever our beliefs are and whatever our social whatever, we're also just basically proving that we can't work together. We're very incompetent, which is something that we're trying to throw into the Chinese government that they're lying. So I don't know. It's be safe out there. Who do we listen to for good advice? Everyone. And protect yourselves and your family, and be courteous of others and the way that they're handling this pandemic. I guess is my point with all of it. All right. I think we're a little early on time. Is that right? Just go off. All right. All right. Well, I think do an extended sign off, little outro here. I needed to do a little bit more research for all these stories. We're actually, and Paul's awesome. He's in the studio, safe, social distancing, but we're actually equipped here at 99 Perspectives to have graphics, to have video, to do interviews and panels. And I haven't really been using this platform to the extent that I have. But it is a leg up from Facebook Living my random thoughts at any given moment. So I'm going to try to use this a bit more purposefully and take advantage of all that it has to offer, and encourage others to join 99 Perspectives and during these times and get your messaging out there. Paul's like, oh my God, is that more work for me? But it's also more content for us to push out. Because 99 Perspectives, we are the 99%, and we are up against the 1%. And we need to be making sure that we are sharing our stories in good faith, undergirded by solidarity. And this is a note to get that started. So, maybe Bernie Sanders doesn't become president this year. Maybe Medicare for all takes, the reason that a lot of people are like Bernie or bust is because Joe Biden may very well win with former Trump voters voting for him. And then he's going to try to get all of those organizers fighting for Medicare for all for now to start working on ACA extensions for 2022 so the Democrats can run on it. Okay. That's what the establishment's built up for themselves for the last 5 years. We on the left, have elected officials, have independent media that I think we have to start consolidating our efforts, have the youth pushing for a Green New Deal, for Medicare for all, for the legalization of cannabis, for housing as a human right, for an ethos completely antithesis to what the boomers' self-sustaining, self-reliant, lonely, atomized, billionaire, social conditioned policies are. So I think we built a lot. And I want my show to start being a show that celebrates that. Man, I picked a terrible title to do that. But that's kind of where my energy's at. That's kind of what I want us to be working on. That's kind of what I would encourage people that would like to be on the show. I've had a couple people reach out that they're working in their community. Don't reach out to me if you just want to run for office later. If you want to run for office later, awesome. I want to help you. If you're an organizer who's been doing this for a couple of years and this ain't nothing new and it's your neighborhood, your community holding itself together, I want to hear from you. And that's going to be what this show is, because we haven't lost, guys. We built a hell of a lot. We have plenty to work with here. We don't need to follow Warren Democrats. We don't need to follow Biden's anti-Medicare for all and give that legitimacy. We definitely don't need to vote against Medicare for all. I think, if you don't feel like you want to vote against Medicare for all, that's what we need to figure out what we should be doing. So thank you for tuning in, all like 43 of you. I should do a better job of chopping these things up into smaller 10-minute segments in the videos and actually making the show a little bit more presentable to you, which we'll be hopefully seeing more of. And we'll also be, making sure that a lot more of your stories, that a lot more of this is less of me just sharing you my opinion and a lot more connecting to what other people are doing out there. So thank you again for everyone that is fighting to stay alive, to stay motivated, that is out there helping others, whether you're getting meals out to families, doing wellness checks, keeping morale high. That's not something I've been doing on social media necessarily, but everyone that's been doing that out there, thank you for rallying at this time. You really are holding us together. I encourage everyone to look into 99 Perspective Studios. If you have your own content to create it. We should be doing more of it everywhere. Thank you. Let's all have each other's back. Let's try to stay together as much as we possibly can as a collective. They're going to try to divide us up again and really try to lump us in with the red MAGA crowd. Maybe some of those people really took a shine to Bernie Sanders. We don't have to go back and think that voting Donald Trump or something is the answer. Donald Trump may lie and say that he's going to pass Medicare for all. He can pass it at any moment with an executive decision. So unless he does that, don't believe him. And that's all I got. All right, stay together. Watch each other's back. I had a whole line. I had a whole speech, but I don't know. Be safe. Be well. Wishing you good safety and good health. All right, thanks. Peace.